An abstract from Stephen Kirschner of Fredonia State University. Non-forcible adult-child sex is thought to be morally wrong in part because it's non-consensual. In this paper, I argue against this notion. In particular, I reject accounts of the moral wrongfulness of adult-child sex that rest on the absence of consent, concerns about adult exploitation of children, and the existence of morally primitive duty against such.
Children can't be willing things in general. It's an odd view in that they seem to will things all the time. They will participation in kickball. They will showing up, participating in the bar mitzvah lessons, bat mitzvah lessons. So there's all sorts of things that they will. You might think, well, maybe there's something distinct about sex that they can't really understand it. It's not clear to me that what they're not getting at is consent. I suspect what they want to say is, okay, they're willing participants, they're voluntary participants. They have some understanding what's going on, not understanding we do, but some understanding, but they haven't consented. Perhaps that's so, but that's a different claim from their being unwilling. There's just lots of activities that children engage in that they don't understand all that well. For example, when you first show up to participate in a judo tournament or you prepare for your bat mitzvah, I mean, you have a rough idea, but it's not clear how much you fully understand it. Imagine that an adult male wants to have a 12-year-old girl. Imagine that she's a willing participant. A very standard, very widely held view that there's something deeply wrong about this, and it's wrong independent of it being criminalized. It's not obvious to me that is in fact wrong. I think this is a mistake, and I think that exploring why it's a mistake will tell us not only things about adult-child, but also about fundamental principles of morality. If we're in the area of legislation rather than morality, here's a rule of thumb. If you don't know whether something has expected good or expected bad consequences, the thumb on the scale should go to liberty. So if we don't know whether willing with 15-year-olds is going to have net good or bad consequences, it's not like we say, oh, well, go ahead and ban it. The idea is that people trying to criminalize something bear the burden. And even having harsh opinions on this, before we condemn people for engaging these on the basis of probabilistic utilitarianism, we should know that it does pose a risk for those and only those willing participants. I don't think we know that.
Still the adult child, that's always a big seller.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I had good friends who said, are you crazy? Do not write that book.
Man, listen, you're talking to a guy who for 25 years has been making arguments more or less in defense of adult child in classrooms. And I don't know if it's the same argument as yours, but I even authored a piece in the Daily Beast in which I called into question the age of consent laws, which is, and I brought to bear the arguments I was making in class. And I'm going to see how they
infringement case that we don't get, they can't give their valid consent, and therefore it's wrong in virtue of being a right infringement. And there's a view that it's exploitative. That even if it's not harmful, and even if it's not a right infringement, it's somehow an exploitation.
Right. I've heard all these. Yes. Okay.
Right. So those are the three dominant arguments. And none of these convince me. So me
neither.
The harm argument. Well, there's actual empirical controversy over this.
Sure. Yeah.
On the rights-based argument, I think, look, we make children do all sorts of things that we don't want to do. Right?
Thank you.
We make them go to church. We make them go to the temple. We tell them to go to school. They got to go to the dentist. They got to go to their sister's ballet recital. And we don't care what they say. And they want to do things. We say no, right? They say, I want to stay up and watch, Creature Feature on WPIX until, 2 in the morning. We say, well, it's tough.
That is all a child's life is coercion.
Right, that's right.
Is coercion by adults often to make the child do something for the adult's pleasure only.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You say, you're going to go to your great uncle's funeral, even though you want to go, and even though it's not in your interest.
Right.
So the rights-based argument's a little bit hard to follow.
There's a lot wrong with everything I just showed you, but what really pisses me off is how comfortable one is with saying things like that. You feel so emboldened. You see all this change happening in the world that's good and bad, and you think this is the perfect opportunity for me to give my opinions on what it is I think is unnecessary in the world. And out of all the things, you choose coitus between an adult male and a child. I'm sorry to burst everybody's bubble. I get that everybody wants to be accepting, everyone wants to be inclusive, everyone wants to be kumbaya, but I'm going to be very clear about what it is I'm about to say. If you are a grown adult, 35 years old, let's give an example of an age, and you look at an 8-year-old boy or girl and you think you can have coitus with that human being, that child, you are a disgusting piece of shit. I get that you think, oh my God, there's nothing morally wrong with it. And obviously consent has to play into it. And kids, oh, these adults influence these kids to do things all the time. Hey, you have a broken back? Let's go to the doctor. I don't want to go to the doctor, Mom. Too bad, you're going to die either way. Oh my God, it's time for you to go to school, little Jimmy. I don't want to go to school. School's boring. Too bad, because I have nobody to watch you. So you need to go get this education. Come on, little Johnny, let's go to your grandpa's funeral. But I never knew my grandpa. Too bad, he's family. And to think those are somehow an equal example as to say you can convince a child or command a child into coitus is the most baffling thing I've heard this year, and we are only in the second day of the second month. Why? Like, when did this become a thing where people could proudly give their opinion about coitus with children? I don't care who you are. I don't care who dislikes this video, and I don't know why you could possibly dislike this video, because all I'm saying is an adult should not be having any form of coitus, whether if it's mental or physical or emotional, with a child. If you're so ugly and desperate that adults don't want you, don't go for the children. It's just that simple and easy. You can call me anything you want, but at least I'm gonna sit here and have a standard about life, and it's simple. Leave the children out of your weird fantasies. Stop using these children as examples to prove your point. Stop using these children as examples for sexual gratification, because nobody's gonna look at you with any sense in their mind and say, I agree with you. There's a problem in the world. Our moral obligations in life have created these social constructs that make us think that having sex as a 40-year-old man with a 2-year-old is morally corrupt, and oh my God, this is something we need to deconstruct. No, out of all these social constructs y'all talk about and you claim to have a problem with, at least let this be the one that stays as the construct, because I don't need anybody advocating for children being violated by adults. There's no consent there. There's no, hey little Timmy, let me stick this in you real quick and just be okay with it. Yes, Mommy, yes, Daddy, yes, stranger, yes, random cousin. You are sick in the head, sick-minded, twisted, demented, mentally challenged, mentally corrupt, and if you have ever acted on this, you are a child and a pedophile. There is no walking around this conversation.
Other news tonight, SUNY Fredonia is reviewing disturbing comments from one of their professors talking about adults having sex with children.
Many students that we heard from are absolutely disgusted by the professor's comments, which surfaced in an online video. News 4's Jeff Preval has the details tonight. Jeff?
And Don and Jackie, there are questions tonight about whether this professor will be disciplined. Those comments appear in a video that's being widely shared on social media. Dr. Stephen Kirschner, a distinguished professor in philosophy at SUNY Fredonia, is under heavy criticism for comments he made about between adults and minors. The comments appear in a video that has surfaced online. News 4 is not showing the video because we have not been granted permission to do so. But many students on campus have seen the video.
I think the video is honestly one of the most disgusting things I've seen here on campus.
In a statement, SUNY's president says SUNY is aware of a video posted online involving one of its professors. The views expressed by the professor are reprehensible and do not represent the values of SUNY Fredonia in any way, shape, or form. They are solely the professor's views. The matter is being reviewed. According to an op-ed Kirschner wrote in the Dunkirk Observer last year, Kirschner says that he's a tenured faculty member at Fredonia. He's written books about Kirschner can be heard on a podcast in December 2020 questioning whether pedophilia is physically or emotionally harmful. He also questions statutory laws and argues that veterans shouldn't be celebrated as they are.
I just don't understand how they let somebody rise to such a high level of respect when he's degraded women, degraded situations like this.
In New York State, no one under the age of 17 can consent to sex.
These are some of the most punitive offenses under our penal law. They are akin to committing homicide. You can be facing many years of incarceration.
I just want to say I hope this situation gets resolved. Otherwise, I won't be returning next semester. I don't want to learn somewhere where people like this are allowed to hold a position of power.
You can throw out all these words. You can try to sound like some intellectual. You can try to sound like the brave hero who's going to stand up for this marginalized, oppressed group. But you sound like the creep trying to give a pass to a bunch of creeps. And I don't know this man. I don't know if he's actually engaged in adult and child coitus. I'm going to hold a little bit of benefit of the doubt that he hasn't, but advocating for it or trying to give a pass for it is so outlandishly dumb that yes, in my mind, I also think you've participated in this. And you know what's funny? In this world of everybody trying to understand everybody's opinions, he probably thought, yeah, people are going to see this and they're going to say, I understand you. I understand the point you're trying to make. Oh, I understand your well-being of life. But what's funny is that the university he works for or used to work for or was formerly employed by, whatever words you want to throw out, came out and gave a baseless statement saying, yeah, we don't condone that shit. And surprise, surprise, why would any business university that houses up and coming young adults think that it's okay to stand by a guy who's saying, yeah, well, let's throw out all these excuses as to why adults with children is the proper thing and it's something that's morally I don't see anything wrong with. I don't understand life anymore. I don't understand this game of trying to articulate a point for everything. I don't know where it became the fun, cool, accepting thing to just listen to everybody say something, because honestly, a lot of people, blue check marks, regular random people, some random person who immediately trends because of the weird things they say, do not deserve to be listened to. They don't deserve your lending ear in anything, because what they're saying is so outlandish, it doesn't need any ability to have the conversation of, well, maybe this is true, because it's so outlandishly stupid. And for whatever reason, here's my plea, here's my hopefulness with this video and future videos, past videos, and just regular interactions with human beings. These types of conversations, specifically these that involve putting children at risk. I know that there was one video I showed where this dude said, oh, there's no real risk at all. You could child doing something like that. You didn't think about that one, did you, buddy? But honestly, in the future, when somebody, I don't care if they got college degrees, I don't care if they're a kid, I don't care if they're a teenager, I don't care if they got all the credentials, I don't care if they're the president, I don't care if they got $1 million and they could just throw it at a bunch of people to get them to say yes. If someone is publicly advocating to violate children, if they're trying to give some weird pass to people who violate children, if there's somebody out there who is violating children and they're trying to have a platform to speak about how much they do that, shut them out. Tell them whatever insult you want to tell them that's justified and continue on with life, because these types of people deserve to be laughed out the building. They deserve to be scrutinized. They deserve to be insulted, because why do you feel so bold to get on any platform and say the most outlandish you could think of? And then I sit back and I wonder why, but I know why. It's because throughout these past few years and all these random people coming out of nowhere and saying everything's a social construct and everything needs to be deconstructed and we must rebuild it into something that's more inclusive and accepting, you got people who sniff through the cracks and say things and try to get away with their weird activities. And I'm not saying everything is bad and it's all something everyone's complaining about, because there's a lot of issues in America that need to be addressed. But I'm talking specifically about this idea that it's not morally wrong to violate a child, and oh, consent is a thing, even though it's not really something you should be looking towards because you're violating a child. Yeah, I'ma always take issue with that. You could say I'm morally corrupt and I'm making fun of a group of people, and I'll smile and say, yes, I am, because if you're advocating for violating children, you don't get any credence from me. And by the way, just to end this video, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Isn't it funny how the people who are okay with things like this, the people who say things like this, the people who accept that this is something that we need to deconstruct and we must reform what it means to be all these different things, even though whatever it means, you're still sick in the damn head. Isn't it funny how they champion things like this? But if a child holds a gun, that's where they draw the line. That's just something I always think about sometimes. But subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Please don't grow up to be this fucking dumb.